Welcome to the OFX podcast. I'm Dave Claxton, and along with me, as always, is the hesitant High Rocks racer, Bethany McChesney, because she's hesitant because she hasn't signed up yet, and we'll go through that a little bit. But and with us today is Professor Arielle Fitzgerald.
In my sweater.
That's right. Well, it's either like the professor or Kurt Cobain. I don't know, but the glasses are very much the professor look.
My professor look.
Yeah. So I don't know, Bethany, if you want to go through this at all again, but why are you hesitant?
Why? Well, there's been a lot of reasons that I've been hesitant to sign up. Some of them is I just have so much distrust that we're even going to be able to cross the border, being back in another lockdown now. And then I believe I had COVID last week and it's been really difficult recovering. I did test negative with an at-home rapid test, but I was so sick and I'm just really struggling with training right now. Everything is difficult. My breathing is labored. Everything just burns. So I've done some testing yesterday and it felt pretty awful. So I still haven't taken it off the table. I have talked about doing doubles so that there is kind of those little breaks in there. So, because I also, when I do harder efforts, I get these coughing fits also. So I have talked about doing doubles so that I can still kind of have the High Rocks experience, and then I can go because I want to go anyways, just to be able to watch. So yeah, that's why I just feel like it's going to be a very last minute decision for me. And it's frustrating because I've been looking forward to it for so long, but then just getting hit with this sickness is just really taking the wind out of my sails. So that's where I'm at.
Fingers crossed for you.
Yeah.
And just the traveling in general. I've talked to people in the States, and I don't know, Arielle, if you've done this, because obviously everybody's planning their season for 2022 or trying to.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've been hit with this, but right now, just the thought of traveling is so difficult.
I know.
To prepare for.
Yeah. And we're actually more interested in planning an all-inclusive to Mexico next month than our 2022 season. But that's primarily because my boyfriend's parents went down and his mom got stuck there because she tested positive for COVID. But luckily her insurance policy has covered her 2 weeks there. So she's just been living life in Mexico for 2 weeks, but she got lucky. But I think the biggest concern is that when you come back to Canada, you require a PCR test and the virus can live into your system up to 3 months. So if you've had COVID, you can get a false negative at the border. So where my boyfriend just tested positive for COVID, he's now we're not going anywhere where we require a test unless I can get a doctor's note. And he's freaking out about that. But there's definitely, especially with this variant being as contagious as it is, it's not necessarily getting to the events. I have no question that the US will let me go there. It's whether or not Canada will let me come back.
Right.
And then you add on all this extra cost, right? Cost for the test to go. Yeah.
We'll go into that a little bit later, actually, because we'll dive deep into this Spartan thing later on.
All right.
But before that, let's talk about your 2021, because you are the official 2021 Canadian Series, possibly the final Canadian Series champion.
Yeah, it's so sad.
The one and only time, hopefully not only, but possibly.
Yes, I know. It's very sad and exciting to have done this series, but I think they didn't let the Canadian Series live long enough to gain momentum. They ran it once in a weird year still with 2 races, not the full 3 races. Events in Canada were only happening for a portion. So I do think it's pretty sad that, the Canadian Series finally got some prize money in it, finally started to run, and now is just gone extinct again. Which,
yeah.
And only 2 races. And I do feel like we were talking you know, with Emma coming onto the scene, and like there's definitely some potential, and Bethany being out, but there is a lot of strong racers in Canada. So like the Canadian series could arguably be just as competitive as the American series standalone. Like the Canadian athletes, you know, it would be cool to see like Canadian series and American series, and you go off to a North American championships and create that. I just don't think they let it live long enough, which is sad. And starting to now move into the North American series in still a weird year, it's again like, what's going to happen? Like you're probably going to have a smaller pool of athletes again. Those Canadian athletes again are still getting the short end of the stick with everything that's going on. So I don't know where you want me to take my tangent.
Oh, you know what? Screw it. Let's just go. So yeah, well, we have another guest coming on here now. So, so we'll wait till Emma just jumps in. Dramatic pause.
Yeah, the Cook-Clarke is in the house.
Hi. Thanks for the last minute addition. This is exciting.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know we tend to roll on a last minute basis, so I figured I'd just like squeeze this one in.
It's perfect. It's like more likelihood of being able to join when it's last minute.
Yeah, exactly.
So for those of you who don't know, this is Emma Cook-Clarke joining us as well. So we had the Canadian Series champion, and now we have the North American champion from 2021 and 4th place at Worlds, which devastated me. You should have saw. I was like,
oh, I was so sad.
Oh, I know. I felt so bad for like everyone. I felt more bad about that than for my own sake, because like family and friends and you guys and like other people who've helped support me. It's like, dang, could have just held on a tiny bit harder.
It's okay. It happens.
Well, I think you paid the appropriate price, because that looked like the worst penalty loop of all time.
Yeah, that was definitely fun for sure. It was long. I took a while on it. I was like, you know what? There's still maybe a chance to hold her off, but it was deceivingly long. You looked up at it and thought, okay, I can finish that in 30 seconds, but probably at 30 seconds, I was only like a quarter of the way up it or something. I don't know.
That last climb, or not last climb, but like that huge sand dune climb where they had ropes, that just looked like the most soul-crushing thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like those treadmill ski slopes don't even do justice to what that sand dune looked like. Oh man. It
was definitely a slog. It was pretty funny.
So just curious, and both Bethany and Arielle, how did you guys feel watching the other women do that race? Like, were you having FOMO, or when you saw that you went, no, I'm good. I'm glad I'm not there.
Oh, you can go first, Beth. I feel like you sat on a season of FOMO.
I know, I did. It was just a year of FOMO for me. I did have FOMO. I've raced and I ran in the desert before, having lived there. And it's really uncomfortable. So a part of me was like, oh my gosh, I do not miss that at all. Like all the sand everywhere and just like filling your shoes and just how uncomfortable that is. So a part of me really didn't miss it. It looked pretty devastating, that massive dune, and just, running constantly. It looked like maybe 90% of it just in that really, really loose sand. But just the experience looked so unique, like no other Spartan race that I've ever seen. So in that way, just to experience something so different, that's kind of where I had FOMO about it. And again, being back in the UAE. So a lot of these stories that I hear about, I was like, I know exactly what they're talking about, just kind of the culture and everything. So yeah, that part of it I miss for sure.
Yeah, I could agree. I think I had spent quite a bit of time actually trying to train for this event, like, you know, seeking out sand every weekend and like doing like sauna simulations. in Russian culture, like banya is like big. So we'd like rent out a sauna room for like 2 hours and just do these like hot, cold simulation things after workout. So I think I was a little bit upset about how much effort I put into like going to the event to not be able to go. But like the travel day and the amount of time it would take to get there, and then like the time window I could potentially get off work, and like external pressures made it like it was the right decision. Just seeing like how long the travels day was, like the lack of communication from Spartan about understanding what was going on, the likelihood of having a strong performance in those circumstances. So all those things sort of made it less FOMO. But I actually find the FOMO is kind of now, like I'm feeling a bit more of the delayed onset of like not having to pull out of World's Toughest because of an injury, and then getting like throwing my heart and soul in to Abu Dhabi and then not being able to go. And now I feel like there was like my season was very anticlimactic in like what I had spent the bulk of the year working on. So I'm finding the FOMOs more now of like, I don't know what I want to do next year, just because like I've had 2 back-to-back disappointing things kind of happen. That, yeah, it's interesting, because when I decided not to go, I was like, oh, it's the right decision to make. It wasn't like, you know, watching the event, it would look like extremely hard. But then same thing, like seeing the team and everyone together, that part I definitely missed more of, just being like, I want to be there with everyone. So yeah. But don't miss that sand dune climb. It was like, holy crow, completely soul crushing.
I watched the race and I thought the race would be very cool, but as soon as I heard tents without air conditioners, and I was like, yeah, I'm out. No way. Forget that.
Like the lack of sleep people got, it was like, oh, I'm not so bad, I'm not there. And just
somebody said there was a town about 30 minutes away that nobody knew about. Like, could you? I would have definitely stayed there.
Well, I know, it's crazy. Yeah.
I think if it's back in future, I think people will be doing it differently. But all of that having been said, I think both of you gals would have crushed it. Like, yeah, the sand was difficult, and that massive dune was like slow and a grind, but I think it really favored the skills that you two have. So if it's there again and things line up, you'd crush it.
Go for it.
And are they talking though that it would likely be in a different location in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, that's what somebody mentioned recently, but I'm not entirely sure if it would still be like desert or what.
Yeah,
from my understanding, it's still going to be desert, but it'll be probably closer to the hard packed sand. You're not going to be climbing as much. But again, that's what they're saying now.
Yeah,
not so far out of Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. They don't really know. I don't even know if they know where like North Americans is, or where like Utah doesn't even have a location posted.
Yeah. So you know what? There's no way to avoid not getting into this. So let's just get into this. So obviously you two both were very active in the U.S. National Series last year, the Canadian Series for Arielle. And this year, we all know Spartans announced the new North American Series, and then the age group focused U.S. National Series, Mexican Series, Canadian Series. So let's just go right into it. And Arielle, I know this is a real hot button for you. So just what's your take on it right away?
I love the age group national series. I think that is like super smart on Spartan. I think people who are in this sport are super passionate about it and committed to it, and like everyone I've met who race age group is like really into that. So I really like that idea of doing that. But as I was saying before, I'm really sad to see like the Canadian series die so early on in its stages. And I think they announced this North American series and get everyone excited for next year when they still haven't cleaned up their business from last year. So just like, yeah, which is coming. And like, I really respect the email that we got a few days ago about like transparency about what's been going on. And it kind of goes back to what had happened with Abu Dhabi, where all the athletes announced like, communication lacking, we're not going. And then they sent out this huge email And that if they would just do that, like they did that in July or September when the problem happened and people knew what was going on, would be nice. But it's hard to get excited for the North American series when we don't even know, will athletes receive support? Who will receive support? What does this look like to traveling there? We are still in a pandemic. You know, places are in lockdowns. The first race is 2 months away. Like, do I book things now? Do I wait? Not. Yeah. Will I even have support to race? Because that's another expense, right? Like if there's no support for racing, then I missed all the deals to buy a season's pass. So like things like that, I think it's a lot of unknown. But
I would assume that you would have probably been planning to redo the Canadian series again this year, considering the, you know, what we all thought was going to happen, right? I mean, you know, we thought it probably would have been a 3-race series, the same thing. I imagine that probably would have been higher on your list, and then maybe dabbling in the US series where it's applicable, right? Where you can get down there. And I'll just say that you're not alone in that assessment.
Yeah.
I've heard it from other sources too. And I don't know, Emma, like, what about you? How has this affected your plans for 2022? Like, what was your original plan? And now what, are you still on the same page?
Yeah, I didn't really have an original plan. I think I was waiting to see what happened. Well, my original plan was to like pick and choose races that made sense for me, whether it was with my work schedule or with like a location that I wanted to go to. And so I was pretty excited about the prospect of the North American series. It's nice to include Canada and Mexico in like the major races in America. And like we saw it last year where a lot of Canadians went down to those races, and then even some top Americans came up to some of the Canadian ones. So there's already the mingling. I think it's cool to combine them. Secretly, I was hoping for like 3, 1 Canada, 1 Mexico, and 1 America, just to make it like a bit more simple and easy and like equal, I guess, from each country, but completely understandable in that the bulk of competitors are in the States. Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm planning on trying to do them. We'll see like how things pan out when the time comes, but I think it'll be cool to go to those places. And my only wish is that the Canadian one was first so that I could come and train with you guys to learn some obstacle stuff at the start of the season instead of the end.
absolutely.
Beth and I
think 3, I would have loved to see 3 races. I think that was one thing I was banking on, was only having to have like the 3 races, the North Americans. The 4th race just adds in this extra, like an extra race. Yeah.
I never thought about it, but Emma's suggestion there of 1 race in Mexico, 1 in Canada.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of cool. And then you can make 1 a sprint, 1 a super, and 1 a beast. And actually,
that is definitely one thing about the series. Like when Nicole sort of texted me the series, she's like, this is awesome for you and Emma and Annie, but this really sucks for me. Like someone who's like coming back from injury. It's all mountain courses. They're all beast. Like it's definitely favors some athletes more than others. Like not even having a sprint. It's pretty crazy for sure. Yeah.
If you guys beat Nicole at a race, are you off the team? That's the rule, right? I assume.
Yeah.
It's unwritten, but yeah, of course.
Yeah. That's how it goes.
Or we just owe her and the team a lot of money, I think.
Yeah. It's in our contracts.
Percentage of prize winnings.
Yeah.
Now you're aware this year, though, Emma, you do know that there is prizes. You can get prize money this time, right?
Well, yeah.
Catch you off guard.
I don't know. I did get that same email the other day from Spartan. It's so funny though. It starts off saying like we made a big mistake, and I just like in my head I was like, okay, yep, not getting any of it. That's your big mistake.
Yeah.
But,
That's
anyway,
what I thought too. Bankruptcy declared.
Yeah. So no, if that comes through, that'll be like a big weight off in terms of the travel costs for sure.
So I got my money from Spartan, so I don't know what you guys are doing.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah.
So they they've sent over this like form, and I don't know if you got it, but it came over today, and I was like, is there anything you would like to ask Spartan for, or like you're ready to receive your money? And I was like, I felt like screenshotting it and be like, Spartan, I'm ready when you are. Like, it's all ready. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, prize money is not why we do this. It's just an interesting piece to it.
Yeah, it's a nice bonus, and hopefully they'll get that all straightened out. And I mean, we rag on Spartan a little bit because it's good fun, but
yeah,
it is. We always owe them because they are.
Spartans run so lean this year. I think they've done an awesome job, and I think Annie like really put in perspective at Tahoe. She's like, people do not understand how hard these races are to run, and when they run so much on volunteers, and a lot of the volunteers were not really doing it this year because of COVID and because of they still had race passes from the year before, since no races went, so there wasn't as much of incentive for people to volunteer. She's like, every time I run build crew, it's a miracle these races happen. And I mean, Dave, you and Bethany, you guys probably saw that at Blue Mountain, and I think that's like very like respectful. Like, no one knows what goes on behind the scenes, and like pulling off as much as Spartan does with as little staff as they do, I think is like, they work around the clock all year round, probably all day long, every day, trying to figure things out. So
I think the people that impressed me most actually were the people that were actually blazing the trails and laying out the actual map, because I was insane. I couldn't believe how difficult that was and how far they had to go. And then, that's not going to work. We got to go over here. We got to do this. We got to do that. And like, I was there. I was just building obstacles. So that was that to me was a lot easier than trying to figure out where the race was going to go.
My boyfriend raced that race, and it was his first race, and he's like, I don't understand, because he like loves finding routes up mountains, and he's like, why this way? Like, why up and back down and back up again and back down again? Like, why didn't they loop us like this? And like, but it was funny. I agree. And I know with ski resorts, there's rules around where you can go and where you can put trail, and it is a puzzle, right? Yeah. Where can you get obstacles to, and what makes sense? So yeah, and Blue, like, in comparison to a lot of venues, Blue is actually really convenient for getting obstacles to. There's a lot of access roads and things like that compared to some of the other venues they go to, where it's just, that's why it's like almost every obstacle is down at the bottom of the hill, because that's the only place they can get. Yeah, it's true.
But going back to go ahead, Beth.
Oh, sorry. I was going to shift gears. So yeah. So I want to ask you girls then about OCR Dream Team then. So how did you find then the support of the Dream Team helped you, and what was the most valuable?
Emma, you can go.
Sure. Yeah, big time support, like super grateful for everything that Nicole did, as well as the generous support from a lot of the experts on board. I think for me, the mentorship was huge, just like talking to Nicole and then meeting the other gals on the team and kind of having their advice on what to do, where to go, how to do it. And then the coaching from Grit was really helpful for some like strength specific and run coaching. And then she provided a bit of a stipend for travel and training. So that also like took some of the pressure off initially, being like, okay, I can use that money to get a membership at the obstacle gym, or to like pay for a flight, or the insanely expensive COVID tests. And then, having like race entry paid for as well was super nice. It's something that like definitely would have been a barrier in the past, I think, like just jumping in a race for fun that would cost like $2,000 in total for the weekend. I wouldn't be like inclined to just do that. But when there's a bit more of like a team aspect and some support as well, it removed that barrier by quite a lot.
Yes, I would agree with Emma and echo a lot of that. I really enjoyed, like, I've been in the sport a little longer, but I really appreciate the team aspect to it. It just made going to races more exciting. It justified like the barriers a lot. It made like very clear that this is what you're going to do, unless you were like almost less concerned about all the barriers. It's just like, oh, I'm going, like people are going to be there. It's exciting more so than like, oh, it costs this much to go. The flight is like 4 flights and it's like takes so long to go, and it's a couple days off work, and all of those things become less dominant in your thought process when making these decisions. And it was really nice to have just so many, like Nicole's mentorship about kind of what to do and how to bounce your season around. And then like the dietitians and Grit, I was also with Grit coaching. So having Jess and Faye on board, who would I changed my mind so many times, and they were always like quick to respond, pivot things, and like have a new plan up for me, and figure it out, or like jump on the phone if like I was trying to figure something out. So really appreciated all of that support for sure.
It's kind of been like this glimpse into being a professional athlete. It felt like Nicole just helped provide everything to us without us having to put in much like extra effort. She'd just be like, oh, here, my sponsors have also agreed to give you these great resources. So it was like this, it just sort of like landed in our laps, and it was up to us, I guess, to utilize it the best that we could.
Yeah.
And you guys are carrying on with the dream team as well this year?
Yes. Well, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, in a like slightly different capacity, but yeah, we're still involved in it for sure.
So,
I think it's like been really awesome to see, like I've been helping Nicole a little bit like behind the scenes, and just knowing how many people are interested in this sport, and how many people feel these like strong barriers that I would never really consider a barrier. It's definitely been eye-opening to see like how there's this like huge gray area of like really awesome athletes who want to be involved in the sport, feel a barrier to get to the sport, and feel like just being a part of a team will help them get there. Like that is pretty crazy when, so that's exciting for our sport for sure. Like the elite field, like growing and getting, more and more ladies into it. I think it's going to happen in the next few years for sure.
I think Nicole setting that team up was one of the most important things that happened last year, because I think it's the way the sport needs to go. I think it needs to be, and I mean, I've said this many times, less Spartan Pro team, and more outside sponsored individual teams of a smaller nature that compete against each other essentially. And I think that's where you get your sponsorship. That's where you grow the brand, or not the brand. That's where you grow the sport.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Everything happens at the grassroots community level anyways. Like, if you think about your college team, like everyone trained together, and sort of that team aspect is so important. But yes, I agree 100%. Spartan needs to not have a pro team and let other pro teams happen outside.
I just think that the money they save from that, they could put into prize money, into other things.
Staff.
Like that.
Yeah, staff, resources. Staff. Yeah.
Judges, referees.
Yeah. Oh, what are those?
Something we should do too, and quickly when you're talking about the dream team is, you guys got 3 new members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Miranda Kilplinski. Oh my God, I butchered that one. Ashley O'Hara and Hannah Holmes. Have you guys had a chance to talk with them and see how that's all set up?
Briefly, I think, Emma, you know them a little better than I do. Have you talked to?
No, I know Miranda. We met in Asheville, and we've been in touch a lot this year, and then have just chatted a little bit with one of them just on the internet. But hopefully we all can meet up soon for a race, or like some sort of a training camp, or I think we're at least planning to do a phone call with everyone soon.
Yes. And the other piece that's added this year is there's a mentorship program. So there's been 3 athletes named to the team, but then there's also this kind of like next gen sort of mentorship program happening for athletes who aren't quite there to be on the official dream team, but could really benefit from having some mentorship and pulling them along. So that's really cool. I think there's some Canadians, 2 Canadians that Emma and I will be working with. And then was it 2 or 3 Americans girls that will Rhea and Annie will work with.
And yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know. Are you guys allowed to say who they are or no? Or is that?
I don't know.
We won't.
Yeah.
We won't go there.
I'm not sure where we are with that. I just realized I'm not sure. I think so, but yeah.
We'll just leave it alone just in case.
Yeah.
So with the big changes, right? With the big changes coming out, and then one of the biggest ones that a lot of people are talking about is how they have these now focused age group series.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the fears, and it was a fear of mine and still is a fear of a lot of people, is how do you think, especially in the women's field, that a little more focus on the age group will affect the elite field? Do you think it'll make it even less? Like, because I have this terrible fear of even smaller women's elite fields when we want that to get bigger. But with them saying, hey, here's some more attention on the age group, that's been a fear of mine. How do you guys think that'll affect it?
It's a really good point. I can definitely see why there would be like a stronger draw for a strong elite age grouper to like stay with age group if they can do well at that.
Especially,
but hopefully,
go ahead. You finish, Emma.
I'm not sure. I just hope that like there can still be enough draw to like progress and make the leap if you're ready or excited to the elite field.
Yes, I would agree. I think somebody who's maybe confined by time or resources or ability to kind of travel across North America for a good chunk of the year, the draw to do age group or stay in age group would be pretty strong. Like I know some Canadian racers who like the North American series is like pretty much out of the question. So why wouldn't I race the Canadian age group series and maybe jump into a few North American championship races, but spend the majority of my time in the age group series? I can see why it'd be a real concern.
Yeah. And I mean, I think specifically, and Beth, maybe you remember the girl's name when we were out in Red Deer who ran one race in age group and then because she got her call and then the next day ran elite.
Yes, I'm blanking on Bryn Friesen.
Yeah. And I'm worried that I don't say worried, but I mean, I think that maybe in a situation that if it was a little bit different, that where they were focused on age group, she might not have done that. And I thought it was so great that she did. I was so excited to see it. And I want to see more of that, especially in the women's field. That's why this announcement has scared me a little bit. I love the idea of the North American series. I think it's very cool. Mm-hmm. I just, I worry about that any kind of prizes.
5 years down the line, say they run these age group series and this age group series now attracts people to race and compete more seriously in Spartan as the goal to move up to being able to compete in the North American series, where you really have this elite is not the word I like to use, but you have this, like, I'm trying to work up to being able to race the North American series. Do you think there could be any benefit in that regard? Or do you just feel like it's expensive? Like it is an expensive sport to be in. And like traveling around all the time is not cheap. So I don't know. I don't even know, is the age group series 3 races?
Mm-hmm. In Canada. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. So maybe it will encourage people who are still just kind of dabbling in open to move up to doing age group. So it could work in that way too.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I think, and that's the thing, like age group is killing it. They're getting so many entries in age group all the time. And that's why it makes so much sense for Spartan to pay attention to it and acknowledge that, this is where our bread is being buttered. So let's pay a little attention to you guys. It's very smart. Because I don't think as a Spartan business mind, I think as an obstacle course racing sport growth mind. And I'm like, I want to see bigger TV contracts. I want to see coverage. I want to see that stuff. And that requires, you guys and the elites and full women's fields, especially. So that's where That's where it gets me. And I said before, like, I don't want to see any prizes in age group because that holds people back. And that's just coming from a guy who runs age group and, you know, could benefit from that. But I think it's hurtful that way. But
what about just like combining races? Would that be too hectic or too many people if you just like got rid of age group and elite and combined it into one, like just call it like competitive or something?
Yeah. And I mean, you kind of run it then like road racing where you have your podium and then everything after that is just your age groups. That's what I've always thought, especially in the women's field, where sometimes in the Canadian races, we have less than 12 elite women. So why aren't we all just running together with age groupers?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. And same like each age group division, I could be wrong, but don't they start at like different times? So then you've got these different waves and you might have like 3 people in one age group and then 10 minutes later, another 3. And it's like, why not just all together?
Yeah.
Right.
Like a marathon, right? Yeah. I understand like there's obstacles. So like making sure the volume of people on these obstacles is definitely the biggest concern.
For sure.
But I think it was the one year I ran OCR World Championships. There were like all these people on course at the same time and you had no idea where you were. And it was like kind of fun. You just,
Spartan used to do it that way. It used to be like road racing where it was, you know, you got your top 3 and then everybody else was eligible for the age group thing. And it made sense and it works. And they went to this other system because, you know, they thought it would, you know, encourage more people to sign up and it worked. It worked really, really well. So it's here to stay. I would love to see something in the beginning of the year where you have to declare the series or the wave you're going in, right? So at the beginning of the year, you declare I'm going elite or I'm going age group or at least that, and that stops the jumping back and forth is one of those things that bothers me. So I'd like to see something like that. But what was I going to say? Oh my God, I lost my train of thought. So for more women to get racing, right? We want to get more women into the sport and how do you think we encourage them to get up there? How do we get them to move up a level? Oh, come on. You guys are the women's brain trust here. You guys know.
It is like at Tahoe, like hearing it's psychology. Like it's barriers. Honestly, I had this conversation with somebody and part of me wants to say people need to wear shirts at the start line because the intimidation factor that comes from not looking a certain body type and not looking that way to not signing up to race with them starts at the shirt. And I think the number of women who have said, I don't look a certain way and I fit that character, so I just don't want to race with the elites is a bigger barrier than what we make it out to be. So I think choosing how the elites show up is definitely could impact more people starting with the elites.
Never heard that point before.
Interesting.
Yeah. That just comes from a few conversations with people who don't race elite.
Yeah, I think it's a certainly valid point. And you're right. It's like more of a factor than we give it credit for. And just like the psychology component in general, like the confidence and support. I think if we can establish more of that and encourage that, like, it's fun to try something and it's okay to not like look that way, and it's okay to fail obstacles and it's okay to like finish half an hour behind the finisher. Like that's all part of it. Yeah. We can like make that all like a bit more okay. Then I think more people would be inclined to try it.
And it's not just the women's field, it's the men's field as well. It's both fields. So yeah, I think there's a barrier there. Sorry, that was a curveball, but that's like my honest opinion.
I think it's fantastic. It might be one of the best points anyone's ever brought up on these shows.
Yeah, I've never really, but again, is that like realistically speaking though, is that ever going to happen? Are you ever going to be able to say like, all elite women and men have to wear shirts on the start line?
Well, I mean, then that comes down to, I don't think you'll ever be able to enforce it. I think it would be one of those, it's like what you show up in is definitely such a gray area topic. Like, you know, they just removed dress codes in Ontario from school. So can, you know, we enforce it? Like how I choose to show up is like, I'll never race in a sports bra. Not because I don't feel comfortable in one, but because I don't like showing up to work cut up. Like that's my incentive. But I think if we as people who participate in this sport, like change how we like show up, it can have more impact than somebody from up above enforcing how we show up. Like, I think it has to come from a grassroots level. I mean, like Olympic sports have dress codes. Was it that volleyball team got in trouble for wearing longer beach shorts because they didn't want their butts hanging out anymore? Like, it clearly is like how we dress is not a new topic in the world of sport. I don't think Spartan should enforce it. No, because I think if people feel want to race like that, then that's their choice. But I do think it's probably one of the, marathon girls show up in like no clothing either. But it's definitely, you look around, like I'll pick on men, like the men's elite field at Tahoe in like -15, like you'll still see guys in no shirts. Like, you know, it's just the culture of the sport, which I understand. So yeah.
But interestingly, it's not the culture of the sport overseas.
Yeah.
Watch a European race like Denmark or Poland or South Africa. All of the guys are wearing shirts. Mm-hmm. And I've never really understood this. This was something I've talked about before too. If I'm an elite racer, if I'm going to do racing and I'm hoping to attract sponsors and stuff, I'm going to wear a shirt because that's just another spot to slap a sponsorship. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Totally, I've never understood the whole no shirt thing. I mean, I get hot.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Really.
I don't buy it. You wear a shirt, you sweat, you end up cooler than you were if you don't wear it.
Totally. Yes.
I've never got that. So where the two different areas have that different culture. So I've never really understood the no shirt at the men's starting line. That being said, I've tried it because I didn't, yeah. I had to, right? But it's just, I think it's a really good point. And as far as enforcing a dress code, you kind of said it. Many other sports do. Actually, almost every other sport does. They have a uniform. They have a set dress code. Some of it might not make sense, like beach volleyball, but they have it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you very easily could do that. Now though, the genie's out of the bottle. There's no sticking it back in now that you've gone this way. At least I don't think it'd be too hard now.
Yeah, I know. I pulled that one off, but I see. I guess it goes to the next level of sponsorships too. And like influencers and athletes not receiving sponsorships based on having low following and having to have this certain number of following. So now you see athletes using their body to attract more followers to therefore attract more sponsorship money, which I don't think is right. And that's like a whole other issue within sport, but it's like, it's being seen across the board. Like, Olympic athletes having OnlyFans accounts to like, you know, it's on them to do that, but it is like, we're competing for sponsorship dollars. And like, you know, it's no different than a model for an ad. I get that. But if we just changed what our finish line photos look like and what we are wearing in our finish line photos, then that already starts to change what we're posting, what other people are seeing, what other people do when they look at the start line of an elite field and say, hey, I want to race with them. And I had a conversation with a colleague and I showed her some stuff and her first thought was like, I would never, ever want to line up with you girls. I don't feel invited. I don't feel this, not because I don't want to do the sport, but because the image that the sport is portraying doesn't make me want to join. Which I thought was very interesting.
I can definitely empathize with that last point. Like prior to this year when
Yeah.
I'd see start line photos, it's like these girls all have essentially 8-packs. And I just not it wasn't so much an appearance thing, it was more like a capability thing. In my head, I thought, wow, I guess they're like so fit and strong because I'm fairly fit and strong, but I don't have an 8-pack. Therefore, they're like way better and fitter than me and more capable. I think largely it's like a dress code would be cool, and it'd be cool if everyone would, wear something that would cover up that so people were less intimidated. But I think too, like there's still going to be an issue, and it's going to be like a mentality type of thing. So how we address that is like a complicated issue, but I guess like just more and more people that can get into it and do well with different body types would be optimal for that.
Yeah.
And I think Spartan has been like, I follow a few of their pages, and they post a lot of photos of like, different types of people in different races. So I think that is encouraging. And hopefully that transfers for people not just feeling inclined to try an open race, but like they'd feel comfortable at any of the levels.
I would think that is actually one of the things Spartan does best is promote inclusivity.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we don't see it as much as we'd like you're saying, but they promote it. I mean, they love to get Instagram stories and pictures of people who maybe look a little bit different or aren't the norm for an OCR course. They love to promote that. So that's something they do well. I thought, like I said, I found all this really interesting and totally didn't expect to talk about it. But yeah, it comes down to, you guys talk about the women going up, and I do know there's a lot of guys afraid of stuff like that too. It's not as out there, but definitely it can be intimidating when you see. And I think more what Emma said, more about the performance thing, where like these guys are shredded.
Yeah.
Even some people who are good runners and could keep up with them, but they're like, I can't keep up with those guys. They're like, like the last thing I want to do is stand between Mick and Austin on a start line. I'm like, I'm not. That's just, forget it.
But it's true, right?
Yeah. Sorry, Mick. Sorry, Austin. But
I know, the two nicest guys ever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's like, yeah.
So anyway, I think probably where we'll go to is, so with all the changes, what would now be your top goal for 2022?
It's like a loaded question. It's like, what do I want to be when I grow up?
Princess.
A princess, yes. Emma, you can go. Oh my
gosh.
I gotta unplug this heater. I'm like baking down here.
You can take the sweater off now.
Yeah.
We wear the sweater long enough.
Oh boy, top goal. That's a really tough question. One of my top goals is probably to like get better at setting goals. That's a good place to start.
Well, here's the spot to do it.
Yeah. I think I need a life coach to help tell me what to do. I'm just like so excited about all different things, so I find it a little bit hard sometimes to like settle in and commit solely on one thing. But I guess in terms of obstacle course racing, I'm excited to do some of those North American Series races. And then beyond that, don't really know, since nothing else has really been released. So I can't speak to like North American champs or worlds. It'd be fun to try some other types of obstacle course races as well. So we'll see if any of those like happen kind of more locally. The international travel is still like a bit tough, even just down to the States. So that's a little bit of a deterrent for now with those, but eventually I'd like to try. And then I have some trail and mountain races lined up, so that's exciting for me also.
So locally, Arielle, you got to get her out to an X-Warrior event.
Dave was saying I need to go to those too. We could just go in and join an age group wave and play on some obstacles.
Yeah. Okay, Arielle, your turn.
I feel like we need to have a goal setting night because I also need to get better at goal setting. Because I'm like,
so Nicole, for your dream team now, this is part of the mentorship program, is you need to teach your team how to set goals.
It's actually funny that you bring that up because that was feedback. Everybody was like, we need a goal setting night because we need more help on like trying to set some goals. And I think it's tough too. And we know the North American series. We don't know the World Championships. We don't know if there's a North American Championships, when any of that falls, where any of that falls. So until I think some clarity will come once some of those things come out. Now, I'm still trying to go ahead.
You were thinking, yeah, I mean, very much you were saying world's toughest mudder last year was something you were going to for. Are you going to transfer that to next year? Do you think you're going to go for that?
Well, I'm registered. Whether I show up or not is like, yeah, I'm feeling a little like undecided about what I want to do. I think I'll do the first 3 races of the North American Championships. I think I've been battling a little bit of a pull to return to ultra running for the last few years. So whether I choose to listen to that this year, I don't know. It's like this, I'm not done running these shorter distances, but I really miss running ultras. And I mean, the pendulum has swung this year from like trying to get a fast 50K qualifier and go race in South America in 2 years on Team Canada to like running 24-hour ultra world championships at Spartan. So haven't landed anywhere other than racing the first 3 races of the North American Championships. But I think I'll do an ultra. Just it's a question of if I'll do Spartan World Championships or Tough Mudder in November at the end of the year. I don't know if I like can pull a Katie Knight and run both in the same year. I'm not really attracted to 24-hour distance, which I think is part of the problem. Is like I'm attracted to an ultra, but I'm not attracted to 24 hours. So that's part of what I'm trying to figure out now, is if it's just a long trail race I do and then do the regular series for Spartan. Yeah. So
I still don't understand why Spartan Ultra Championship is 24 hours, but the ultra races are not.
I don't get it. I really don't get it either. It would be like, I would have started running ultras years ago if it wasn't 24 hours for Spartan, for sure. But also like the new like system that they're coming out with for how they like rank and support athletes doesn't include any, like ultras don't take into any consideration. So there's not really any incentive to race ultras with Spartan either, like other than just racing a 24-hour race. And yeah,
I think that kind of sucks, just as a side note, because I mean, I'm thinking about it and I'm thinking about like Rhea, who is like such a star when it comes to that stuff. And then, from the way you make it sound, it's like, oh, well, then it'll just be a side note. And I don't want to see that because that's someone I always enjoy watching racing. And she does such amazing stuff.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to see her.
Like with it being so many, like the way the season is lined up right now, it's actually like pretty set up to, either go into an ultra later in the season or go into like train for world championships with regular championships, I guess. But yeah, like it would be, I think the sport of ultra is growing so much, and like there would be probably more people interested in doing it if there was like incentive to do it. Like there's prize money and it's 24 hours, but if we made it like 2 loop ultra 50K world championships, like I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really cool because then it's still, there's a bit of fitness involved. 24 hours is its own beast.
What about this concept? And I think it was Bracken I heard suggest this, but where the North American Series race should be a situation, or North American Series should be something like 1 sprint, 1 beast, 1 super, 1 stadium, and 1 ultra.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be so cool. Like such a well-rounded athlete that would do well in that. Holy.
Yeah.
I see Bethany. She should get a big smile from that one. Like,
it would be cool. Or like more races in the North American Series that aren't at altitude.
Yeah. I think like setting a goal to just be able to do a series like that, like just to finish the whole thing would be pretty remarkable. Like to be able to do like even just a stadium and then finish an ultra, like
yeah.
When just like all of a sudden it becomes like different athletes would become so much more relevant, you know, in different situations, as opposed to like Arielle says, where this coming year, and who knows why it happened. There could have been scheduling reasons, but where every race is very similar, you know. So I thought it would be an interesting thing. I heard Bracken mention, I just thought, oh, that would be very cool. I would enjoy watching that.
I mean, they could still throw a curveball at us and make world championships the 5K sprint that's flat and runnable. Like that could be a curveball that they could throw at us.
Love to see that.
Like, you know, it's still an option. Like, let's make all the athletes race super and beast, and then their world championships is going to be a sprint that's pancake flat.
It'll be a set of Spartan cross races. That's what it'll be. So Emma kind of touched on this. What about you know, branching out and trying some different things like OCRWC, like Savage, things like that? Is that in possibly the cards for you guys?
I've thought about it. It's still an option. Those races are way harder to get to from the West. I have like these 2 seasons lined up in my head, and one's like Spartan lined up, and then the other one's like, let's just go Savage, OCR World, like the whole opposite way. But the Spartan races are way easier to get to, is part of it. But I could see myself maybe jumping into some of them. Maybe OCR World Championships. There's just so much to do. I also still have this like nagging wrist injury that I don't really fully know what it is. So like it still hurts every day, which is very, frustrating.
OCRWC is a must for everybody. And Beth, I think you'd agree.
Oh yeah. It's always one of my A races. It's so much fun. It's just so different than any other OCR race that you do in a season.
That would be cool. Do you guys know anything about the like race that was supposed to go in Russia, in Moscow, like the governing body obstacle course race? What's going on with that?
I don't know what's going on with it, but I will get you the information as much as I can get it. There's hopefully going to be some qualifications in Canada to qualify for that, to represent Canada. But again, difficulties in planning anything with COVID have really halted that. There was supposed to be an Obstacle Sports Canada Canadian Championship in 2019.
Right.
That was going to be partnered with Northman Race. And then, in 2020. And then, everything fell apart. So that we'll get you more information on it as we can.
Because those are shorter races too, though, aren't they?
Yeah, there are shorter races. Yeah.
Like what is it, 5K? I
believe it was 5K.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. I think I would be surprised if it went off as well. It's still, again, with everything going very COVID again, and a lot of lockdowns and a lot of stuff. But then again, from what I'm hearing, it's a lot of just Canada's suffering from this more than elsewhere. Like, whereas everywhere else seems to just be carrying on, and we're in full panic.
Freak out. Yeah, I know. Depends on where you are in Canada too.
All right. So then the other thing we all have to do is we have to make sure that we get Bethany down to Chicago for High Rocks.
Yeah.
So they don't die.
And then
exactly. Come out west. There's like no rules here other than wearing a mask everywhere.
I can handle that.
Yeah. No lockdown.
Last time we came out there was no rules, and then by the time we left, they made everybody put masks back on. So
yeah, we're like that. We haven't taken the mask off since. I'm okay to wear a mask. If I have to wear a mask the rest of my life, then so be it. Like,
just let us travel. That's all.
And not take tests and all of that.
Yeah. You keep gyms open.
Bethany, what are you going to do?
My season?
Yeah, because I know like Canadian series is sort of your focus.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I'm still gonna do a bunch of the Canadian races. And then I want to get in a DECA and then maybe even go to the DECA World Championships if I can get one of those qualifying times. Yeah, and then I want to do a Savage, also probably go back to the Chicago Savage race and OCRWC.
Sweet.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I find how the series are set up because like OCR World and Savage really favors people on the East, and Spartan really favors people on the West, just from a travel perspective.
Yeah.
And part of the things I'm finding right now is a challenge is like a lot of the Air Canada flights aren't running. So like the regular flight routes aren't going. So like getting to the East has now become like way more flights than it would be regularly because they're just not running direct flights out of anywhere.
You know what ticks me off?
What ticks you off, Dave? Tell me.
Well, I hear all these guys and friends talking in the States with like cheap flights, like, oh, I flew here for $50 and $20 and all that stuff.
Wow.
Like, why don't you fly down to Vegas for this and that and go over here? And I'm like, because I can't get on a plane for less than $200.
Yep.
You know,
Annie said the cheapest flight she got was like $13 to go to a race once. Like
I can't drive to work for $13.
I can't get a cab across Strathroy.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
What?
Yeah, I know. And then you talk about like support for American athletes versus Canadian athletes, and you wonder why Canadians can't race as much as Americans, and like why the American model doesn't work in Canada. Well, it costs like $300, normally $500 to fly across the country. So can't do that every weekend.
And that's like going on Swoop and trying to wear everything that you're bringing with you so you don't have to check a bag. Have you ever done that? Like you're like 7 layers of clothes and then sit in your seat and you can't move because you don't want to check it out.
Running shoes are in your pockets.
Yeah.
It was actually funny in Abu Dhabi seeing everyone. They were like kind of stressed about the COVID tests and like the long travel times and the like time zone differences. And I was like, yeah, you see, this is what it's like for us every single time we go to a race.
That one was a bit of a monster travel time zone change. Like, what was the difference in time? Was it like 12 hours or 8 hours or something?
It was 11 hours for me on mountain time.
Yeah,
that's rough. You're probably used to that. Your body is probably like one of the best conditions for these travel days with working 24 hours.
Yeah, I think it was okay. It adds up though if you then don't sleep for like 3 nights. It's we have our limits, but
I always, whenever I think about 24-hour races, I'm like, think about Emma. She does this twice a week. You can do it twice in a year.
I do. I am curious to try one of those 24-hour races, but I don't know if like structurally my body can handle it. That's a lot of running.
Yeah. You are you're a delicate, but so mighty. It's like,
delicate flower.
Yeah.
I'd love to see you both do a 24-hour one. That would okay. So here's what you need to do now. This is
a team event.
Yeah, you go to World's Toughest Mudder and do the team event, just the two of you.
Yeah.
Destroy it.
We would probably do okay.
That'd be so fun. We should look into when it is.
And there's burpees at World's Toughest Mudder.
Yeah.
Why do you say that? I love burpees. I'm great at them.
What about the spear throw, Emma?
No, it's a team event. You do the spear.
Okay.
And you also do like the rigs with the rings that I fall off of.
Oh, yes. You can do all the swimming exercises.
Yeah, exactly.
Electrocution, because that scared me.
Okay.
Yeah. I wasn't going to tell you that.
Yeah. That's just like, people get so concerned when they hear that there's electrocution in water. Like the concern factor is like, Arielle, I really don't like my aunt. Like, I don't think this is a good idea for you. Like, I really don't think it's a good idea.
I will say this: my first ever Tough Mudder, and I went in for when they had what was it? Electric eel was the obstacle. Yeah. And I thought going into it was like, I believe it was my first ever OCR. And I went into it thinking, well, it'll be like this little buzz you get, and just like, because they're not really going to zap you. First one I took right between the eyes, nearly blacked me out. It was like, holy cow, it really hit hard.
Oh,
I was stunned.
Oh, that scares me. I remember my friend once didn't want to do the cliff jump. This is my first exposure to obstacle course racing too. She did not want to do the cliff jump, so she took the electric penalty. And she just came out of that thing bawling her eyes out like, that was the worst thing I've ever done in my life. I will jump off that cliff time no matter what. I am never doing that again. But yeah, crazy.
I always loved the cliff jump. It was the only obstacle you can't fail. You just fall off it. You fall off it and you've successfully completed it. It's fantastic.
And you pop back up magically.
Yeah.
1 rounds. Oh, crazy.
I would love to see you guys do that, though. I think that would be an amazing thing to watch the two of you do a 24-hour race.
We'll add it to the planning list when we have our goal setting session. Yes. All
right. Well, Beth, do you have anything else for the girls?
No, that was great. Thanks so much, Emma and Arielle, for joining us a little bit last minute, but it's always fun to. And yeah, we really look forward to you guys having an awesome 2022, and however your seasons play out, we will be cheering you on here.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for letting me jump on, and yeah, all the best in the seasons that both of you have as well.
Thank you.